Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep, and it is Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021, and we're live. Some of you heard the intro there from 910 AM, the Superstation, where they have some excerpts of me speaking over Snap. I've got the power. I need to get a copy of that. I need to get a copy of that. That's good. That's a good promo. That's imaging. That's what they call in the radio business, imaging. So, well, look, it's been a very, very busy day today. And I was working on content for the show on top of a whole bunch of other things. So on today's show, today is August 3rd. August 3rd is Black Women's Equal Pay Day. Black Women's Equal Pay Day. Now, we always celebrate African-American women and Black Girl Magic and things like this, right? Black Women's Equal Pay Day is not necessarily something to celebrate. We need to understand it and help correct it. But it's not really something to celebrate. It's a legacy of white supremacy and slavery, okay? And discrimination. So what is Black Women's Equal Pay Day? Well, Black Women's Equal Pay Day is the day that African-American women, it marks the day that African-American women the following year make the same amount of money that the average white male made the previous year, okay? It takes the average African-American woman 20 months to make the same amount of money that the average white male makes in 12 months. So the average African-American woman makes 63 cents on the dollar. And, you know, in her working lifetime, there was a study, there's an article from blackenterprise.com from, I think, a couple of years ago, and we'll pull up this article. It deals with how the average African-American woman loses about $1 million in her working lifetime. Okay, loses about $1 million in her working lifetime because of the racial wage gap, So there are a number of articles today being written about this. Fortune.com has an article, NBC News has articles on this. Now, I deal with Black Women's Equal Pay Day every year. It's usually like the first or second week of August. And the amount varies. Some years is 63 cents, some years is 67 cents. But this impacts not just African-American women, but African-American men and African-American family and community. So this is something we should all be concerned about. There's an article from Fortune.com, why Black women's wage gap is a problem for everyone. Why Black women's wage gap is a problem for everyone. On Tuesday, the average Black woman will have finally earned the same amount as the average non-Hispanic white man earned a year earlier, 8 months later. That's a problem, not just for Black women who lose out on $900,000 in lifetime earnings, but for everyone, says experts on equal pay. But for everyone, says experts on equal pay. Well, everybody loses out, period. Okay, you don't have to be an expert on equal pay. You just have to understand how the economy works in a consumer-based economy. So we'll talk about Black Women's Equal Pay Day. And then, speaking of Black Girl Magic, Simone Biles returned to Olympic competition early this morning. And I went to bed. It was something like 4:45 in the morning in Tokyo when the balance beam competition started. I went to bed like 4:30. I recorded it. I haven't had a chance to go back and record. It's been so busy today. And, you know, as we reported yesterday, historian and anthropologist and lecturer and prolific author and a friend of mine, Dr. Runoko Rashidi. Runoko Rashidi passed away August 2nd, 2021, passed away yesterday. He was in Egypt, giving a tour in Egypt, and passed away from a heart attack. So we're dealing with that. And, you know, it's just been a crazy couple of days. Tony Browder reached out to me today. I hit Tony Browder up yesterday. And Tony and Runoko have done lectures together. Tony posted information about Runoko passing and everything. So I'm going to reach back out to Tony because I want to get him on the show again. But Simone Biles won a bronze medal in the balance beam. And I went to bed about 15 minutes. I was tired. I went to bed about 15 minutes before the competition started. So I recorded it. I said, I'll go back and watch it. So she won a bronze medal, and, you know, and everybody was happy for her. Well, most people, not I guess not a lot of the critics, but most people were happy for her. So we're going to discuss that as well. Simone Biles returns and wins bronze on the balance beam. And she also talked about part of what was causing her to have the mental blockage. She also talked about what was going on in her personal life that caused her problems as well. So we'll discuss that. And then we'll talk some more about the passing of Runoko Rashidi. Brilliant brother. You know, Tony said, you know, he's irreplaceable. Tony Browder, when he sent me a message this morning, he said Runoko is irreplaceable. And I don't know, out of all the scholars I know and have known and have interviewed, and I was going through my archives today, I pulled up a interview that I did with Runoko. The one I was trying to get from 2017 when I interviewed him here on 910 AM Superstation. I got to find that one in the archives. It wasn't playing correctly from Blog Talk Radio. So I put up an interview that I did with him from 2014. We're going to share an excerpt of that because that deals with the Black Madonnas, the statues of the Black Madonna and Child in Europe. And it deals with the African presence in Europe and the Moors and things like this. So I don't know any other scholar like Runoko. And of all the scholars I know, I mean, this brother's been to about 135 or more islands and countries. I'm looking at his bio right here on his website, drrunoko.com. And it says 124 countries, but I think it's about 135 now. I think it's at least 135. And I would see him sometimes in Atlanta at the Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Education Expo. Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Education Expo in Atlanta. It takes place usually the third weekend in July in Atlanta. And he spoke there at least, I think, a couple of times. Shout out to Queen Thais, who organizes that. And also, I would see him here in Detroit periodically when Minister Malik Shabazz would bring him to Detroit to speak. And I think that's when I first met him, okay, years ago, maybe 2010, something like that, years ago. And then we know in about 2012, I think it was, he was in Hidden Colors 2 when Hidden Colors 2 came out. But brilliant scholar. So we'll talk some about Runoko. And Runoko connects us to Dr. Ivan Van Sertima because he was a student of Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. So a lot of people are shocked and reeling and mourning the passing of historian and anthropologist and scholar, lecturer, prolific writer. He wrote books, he wrote articles, Runoko Rashidi. Okay, so we're going to deal with those topics on today's show. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions. because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Did I say relationships? Hopefully I did. Relationships. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, to sign up for our email newsletter also. You can still register for the 10-week online course that I teach, the new 10-week online course that I teach. This is on Saturdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay. And this is a 10-week online course. We do the classes live. All the sessions are recorded. We do the class live. All the sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch it over and over again. Even after the course is over with, you can go back and watch it over and over again. Each class, we go through and analyze an approximately 10-year period of history after the Civil War ends. And we start in 1865, but I gave a recap of what led up to the Civil War starting in 1861. In each class, we go through and analyze an approximately 10-year period of time to understand what happened to us after slavery ended. What happened to us after slavery ended? What happened during Reconstruction? Why did Reconstruction end? What was Reconstruction? Take you through that period of time and the Compromise of 1877, which ends a period of a lot of advancement for African Americans. The Compromise of 1877 between the Republicans and the Democrats. We take it through the Jim Crow era and a reversal of our rights and escalation of the imposing of the black codes and things like this, and then go into the 20th century, go into the early 1900s and World War I, 1914 and 1918, the Great Migration, 1915 to 1970, World War II, 1941, 1945. What happens after World War II, then the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Power Movement. Okay. So this is a fantastic course. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information right on the homepage, and then click on register here. It takes you to the next page and click on enroll. Class is regularly $130. It's on sale $80. As soon as you register, there's bonus content that you can start watching. Okay. As soon as you register, there's bonus content that you can start watching also, and then you'll be ready for class on Saturday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can watch from around the world. You can use this also with your children. I would say the information is like PG-13. You can use this with your children as well. Okay, we're going to post a link here, right here on the thread of the broadcast. So you can register for the course, and you can also visit AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and register there as well. All right, we're coming up on a break. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, WFDF. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Black on Purpose Television Network. Yes, Black on Purpose Television Network. All black, all positive, all the time. The largest black-owned streaming television network in the world. Bringing our people together worldwide. Controlling our messages, our stories, our way. Black TV the way it should be. Black music, Black history, and more. 30 plus channels, thousands of shows. Black on Purpose Television Network. Subscribe now.
Hi, I'm Joel Wilson, President and CEO of JCW Computer Consulting LLC a technology implementation firm with over 20 years of satisfying customers. We offer a full spectrum of industry top-tier branded services. We are an authorized partner or reseller for Lenovo, Zoom, T-Mobile, Microsoft 365 and Surface tablets, Google Workspace, Acer, Asus, Samsung, PCmatic security software, and many more. Our online store features laptops, Chromebooks, computers, printers, accessories, and software. Businesses, take advantage of our free 1-hour Zoom tech consultation and know we offer top nationwide high-speed internet service providers, voice over IP, and cellular phone services. Home users, don't miss our current in-stock Chromebook inventory. Please visit us at jcwcc.com or call 215-879-6701.
All right, welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021, and we are live. All right, calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. I just sent you a clip. Shakita, cue that up. It's about Black Women's Equal Pay Day from Morning Joe, please. Thank you. All right. So as I said at the beginning of the show, today is Black Women's Equal Pay Day. Now, a lot of people may celebrate, oh, it's Black Women's Equal Pay Day. It's something great. Well, we should study it, but it ain't really something great. It's because of white supremacy and racism, okay? So each year I talk about Black Women's Equal Pay Day. And Black Women's Equal Pay Day marks the day that it takes the average African-American woman to make the same amount of money that the average white man made the previous year in 12 months. It takes the average African-American woman 20 months to make the same amount of money that the average white male made in 12 months. If we look at this article here from NBC News, Black Women's Equal Pay Day, Black women work 579 days to earn what white men do in 365 days. Now, for all the people that say pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and try harder and all this, that ain't how you did it. I mean, we could deal with the history. Read this book right here, How White Folks Got So Rich, The Untold Story of American White Supremacy. That's not how you did it. August 3rd, Women's Equal Pay Day, or the day Black women must work into 2021 to finally catch up to what white non-Hispanic men earned in 2020. Author Minda Harts, M-I-N-D-A, Minda Harts says companies now have a unique opportunity to even the playing field. Companies have a unique opportunity to even the playing field. Now, over the last year, women have left the workforce in unprecedented numbers as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And if you are African American or Latino, I don't like black or brown, African American or Latino woman, chances are you have fared even worse. This year, Black Women's Equal Pay Day falls on Tuesday, August 3rd, and it means Black women must work an extra 214 days, extra 214 days to catch up with what white non-Hispanic men made in 2020. Across industries, Black women are paid only 63 cents for every dollar made by white men, according to the National Women's Law Center. 63 cents for every dollar made by white men. So racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, which comes out of the ideology of European white supremacy. Okay. Racism is a power structure. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to education, access to opportunity, media, jobs, etc. And they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. So this is a real life effect of this. Okay, this is a real life effect of this. Now, there was also a good article from Black Enterprise that we're going to go to here in just a minute. And I cite this a lot in some of my lectures and things like this. And, you know, when I speak across the country, I talk about Black women's equal pay day. And I'm surprised how many African-American women don't know about Black women's equal pay day. And I said, wait a second, hold on. You're a Black woman. How is it you don't know about this? So let's remember that the workforce was not equitable in many industries for women of color, even prior to the pandemic. And the groups that are often hit the hardest during a crisis tend to take the longest to recover. Despite the challenges that many women of color face in the workplace, the lack of sponsorship, upward mobility barriers, and the wage gap, Minda said, I'm optimistic about our future. I'm optimistic about our future. Minda Hartz. Now, companies and organizations now have a unique opportunity to play a vital role in evening the playing field for women of color. Number one, they can have more inclusive hiring practices. Only 1 in 5 C-suite executives at Fortune 500 companies is a woman, according to the 2019 McKinsey study conducted in partnership with leanin.org. And for women of color, it's even more isolating, with just 1 in 25 in C-suite roles. Despite this current reality, there's good news. Companies can change and implement hiring practices. Companies can change and implement hiring practices that center on African-American women and Latino women that have not been prioritized in the past. I'm not suggesting preferential treatment. What I'm recommending is for companies and organizations to be intentional about having a diverse slate of candidates for all future positions at every level. In addition, a diverse hiring committee should be formed to participate in the interview process. So much bias happens during the hiring process. And by modifying current hiring practices that might skew heavily to one demographic, gender, or race, implementing an equitable hiring framework will inevitably benefit the recruitment and advancement of women of color. Next, we have pay transparency. As we mark Black Women's Equal Pay Day, it should be a reminder to all companies that they must work to find an equitable solution. The answer is simple. It won't happen if companies don't prioritize equal pay for women. It won't happen if companies don't prioritize equal pay for all women. A first and important step is for all companies and organizations to conduct annual or quarterly pay audit reports and make them available to their employees. Between 2016 and 2020, only 22% of companies reported performing salary audits. Only 22% between 2016 and 2020, that 4-year period of time, only 22% of companies reported performing salary audits, which can be used to assess any differences in pay related to gender and race. If we want to recruit and retain women of color, then we have to make sure there are no signs of wage theft practices. Okay, now if we look at this article here that I talk about often, this is from 2019, October 2019. This is from blackenterprise.com. Black women lose out over $1 million in their careers thanks to the wage gap. Black women lose out over $1 million in their careers thanks to the wage gap. This is from October 17th, 2019. This impacts not just African-American women, but African-American families and our community. In the article, it says a black woman will lose out on $946,120. $946,120. Okay. Over a 40-year career, if she continues to make 61 cents on the dollar that every white man earns due to the wage gap. This was an analysis by the National Women's Law Center. Okay. The press release stated, assuming she and her white non-Hispanic male counterpart begin work at age 20, an African-American woman would have to work until she is 86 years old. An African-American woman would have to work until she's 86 years old to catch up to what a white non-Hispanic man has been paid by age 60. So if the average African-American woman loses out almost $1 million in lost earnings due to the wage gap, not because she didn't do the job. Okay, it's due to the racial wage gap. She loses out almost $1 million due to the racial wage gap. That's money that could be used to pay off student loans. That's money that could be used to buy property, start businesses, help put your children through college, buy stocks, all different types of things like this. It's not that she didn't do the work. It's not that she did like 63% of the work. No, she did 100% of the work, but she got paid 63 cents on the dollar. The National Law Center found that black women face even even larger pay disparity in certain states. In the state of Louisiana, which has one of the highest poverty rates in the country, by the way, and that's where Angola Prison is also, Louisiana. In the state of Louisiana, black women are paid on average 47 cents for every dollar their white non-Hispanic male counterpart makes. 47 cents on the dollar, which is the worst state for black women's wage equality. Okay, now this was in 2019. Okay, in about right around 2019. Now, okay, so read the rest of this article here from Black Enterprise. Black women lose out over $1 million in their careers thanks to the wage gap. Should say the racial wage gap. This is what it is, the racial wage gap. Now, the article goes on to say, because, you know, we know African-American women have the most student loan debt on average out of anybody, and African-American women are more educated than anybody, and that's based upon percentage of the population enrolled in college. Is about, when the study came out, 2016, 2017, something like that, it was about 9% of African-American women were enrolled in college. Advanced education among African-American women has not been shown to lower the wage gap. Now, I'm not saying don't get advanced degrees, but we have to look at this here. This is something that people don't talk about. Advanced education among African-American women has not been shown to lower the wage gap. In fact, the gap is largest for the most educated African-American women. The gap is largest for the most educated African-American women. Doctorate degree holders who are African-American women tend to make 60% of what their white male counterparts make. Doctorate degree holders who are African-American women tend to make 60% of what the white male counterparts make. Now, they don't get a discount on student loans. They don't have to pay 63% of the student loans back, or 60% of the student loans back. They have to pay back 100%. African-American women have the highest student loan debt of any racial or ethnic group. For an undergraduate degree, the average African-American woman carries nearly $30,400 in debt. $30,400 in debt compared to $19,500 for white men. The wage gap The wage gap lessens Black women's ability to pay off educational debt, creating an additional barrier to saving money that could be used to buy a home, start a business, or use for emergencies. So this is what racism is: a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race. So for all the people, Black conservatives included, for all the people who want to say pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and try harder, why don't you tell people to pay a fair wage to African-American women and African-American men for that matter? See, they don't want to deal with things like this because this exposes the racism. And you have a lot of people who say try harder, but they don't want to level the playing field because they benefit from the playing field not being level. All right, I want to go to this clip here. This is from, I'm going to go to clip 1, Shakita. This is from Morning Joe, MSNBC, from August 3rd, 2021. Tuesday marks Black Women's Equal Pay Day. August 3rd marks Black Women's Equal Pay Day, or the day Black women must work in 2021, the year 2021, to catch up to what white non-Hispanic men earned in 2020. Author Minda Harts and journalist Aaron Haynes joined Morning Joe to discuss. Let's go to this clip. Take it off mute.
What a night. A good night. I mean, Simone Biles.
Go to the other clip. Is the second, is this, stop the clip. Is the separate email I just sent you. It has the clip from Morning Joe. Black Women's Equal Pay Day. That's the clip from Simone Biles. Black Women's Equal Pay Day. I sent it in a separate email. All right, while we get that queued up, just press play when you get it queued up. There was also an article from CNBC that dealt with how Black women lose out on almost $1 million in their working lifetime as well. Okay, that's from CNBC. And we're going to pull that one up. Now, I just posted the link from Black Enterprise. And, you know, when I do lectures and I share this information with African-American women, I'm surprised how many don't know about this and don't know about Black Women's Equal Pay Day. So this is something that all the celebrities in African-American celebrities, this is something they should be talking about. Let's go to this clip.
May not allow you to know exactly, like I said, how much the person sitting next to you is making. Some may even discipline you for asking that. That has to change. Too often, secrecy is part of the problem. We know information is power. You can't solve the problem if you don't know you're not getting paid fairly. My administration is going to fight for equal pay as it become a reality for all women. It's about justice. It's about fairness. It's about living up to our values and who we are as a nation. Equal pay makes all of us stronger.
President Biden speaking on Equal Pay Day back on March 24th. The day represents how far into the year women must work on average to earn what men earned in the previous year, and the disparity is greater for Black women. Nearly 5 months later, today is Black Women's Equal Pay Day, meaning that Black women will have to work an extra 5 months to catch up. 5 months. Right now, that's 63 cents for every dollar a white man earns. And caregiving to the mix, add that, and you will find that Black mothers make just 52 cents for every dollar a white father makes. The pandemic has only amplified these pre-existing inequities. Let's bring in author Minda Harts. Her book is entitled The Memo, What Women of Color Need to Know to Secure a Seat at the Table. Also with us, Aaron Haynes, editor-at-large for The 19th, the nonprofit newsroom focused on women, politics, and policy. Aaron, let's start with you with these numbers. These statistics really They're staggering and also demoralizing. What more do you know about the inequity between black women and white men, or even black women and white women in terms of equal pay?
Yeah, I mean, it's just as you said, 579 days black women had to work extra in order to earn what white men earned in 2020, and that is a figure that should be alarming to everybody. And we're covering this over at the 19th. We've got a story up right now that shows, one report estimating that the executive and management opportunity gap between white women and white men will close in 2041, but predicted that the gap between women of color and white men may not close until 2124, which is 103 years from now, by the way. So there's an opportunity gap between white men and all other demographics, but black women and white men have the most significant disparity. And look, the bottom line, Mika, is that black women are doing our part. I mean, we're hyper-educated, we're qualified, and yet this gap persists. And so it's time for everybody who's committed to equity to also step up to help to close this gap. But that's not going to happen until this country starts recognizing black women as equals, worthy of equal treatment in this country. And the pay gap is one way to address this. But the reality today is that this is really part of a much larger conversation about who is reflected, whose values are reflected in this country and how that value is reflected.
Jumping off that last point, Minda Harts, how do we solve the problem? How do we even begin to solve the problem in terms of how black women are viewed in the workplace, which then ultimately leads to how they are paid in the workplace? And also, what can black women do to help rectify the problem as well?
Yeah, good to see you, Mika and Aaron. So a couple of things. We really need to focus on what companies and organizations can do to solve this problem. And one of those things is normalizing pay transparency. Between 2016 and 2018, only 22% of companies reported even having salary audits. So we need to normalize transparency, and that will help recruit and retain women of color, black women specifically, when we know that there's not demonstration of wage best practices. Number two, inclusive hiring practices, restructuring and prioritizing black women in the workplace at every level of the company. And that's also including having a diverse hiring slate and making sure that the people doing the hiring are reflected of those black women so that they can see themselves in those roles. And lastly, what black women can do, we can continue to advocate for ourselves, articulate our value and quantify our work. Make sure that people know what we need, and let's build a culture of allies inside the workplace. So if you are a manager, this is also your opportunity to make sure that everyone is invested on your team.
So, Mika, jumping in on this really quickly, you worked with the Obama administration. They asked you to work with them on transparency, the very transparency that we're hearing about this morning, about how every company should let people know what others are making in their similar positions to see through that transparency how fair the pay is.
Yeah, no, it was through the White House Council of Women and Girls, headed up by Tina Chen. Valerie Jarrett was involved, and Equal Pay Day was a big deal. It's salary audits, which companies really push back on for a number of reasons, and also inclusive hiring practices. I talk a lot, Aaron Haynes, about meeting people where they are instead of trying to get people to fit into corporate slots that were created years and years ago that nobody really fits into. Yeah. So this is a huge effort, and what we're going to do is continue this conversation. Go to our website, knowyourvalue.com. You're going to hear a lot more from Minda Harts and Aaron Haynes on this incredibly important issue. Thank you both for being on the show this morning, and I'll see you over on the website.
Okay, that's from Morning Joe. That's from Morning Joe, MSNBC, August 3rd, 2021. So check out that clip. The name of that segment from Morning Joe: Tuesday marks Black Women's Equal Pay Day. Tuesday marks Black Women's Equal Pay Day. That's from MSNBC. We'll post a link here to that clip, and that's on MSNBC's website. Okay, now, if we look at this one here, this article quickly here from Fortune, then we're going to go to the story about Simone Biles, and we'll talk about Runoko Rashidi. So get the clip for Simone Biles ready, because we're going to that next. Why Black women's wage gap is a problem for everyone. Why Black women's wage gap is a problem for everyone. August 3rd, 2021, from fortune.com. And in the article, it talks about how for Black women, of whom many are the primary breadwinners of their households, the pay gap of 63 cents on the dollar represents more than just a loss of money. Represents more than just a loss of money, says Shannon Williams, the director of Equal Pay Today, a project of Equal Pay Today, a project of equal rights advocates. Experts are reflecting on this wage gap on the date known as Black Women's Equal Pay, which comes 4 months after Equal Pay Day. Comes 4 months after Women's Equal Pay Day, which is largely for white women, averaged for all women, reflecting the larger pay gap Black women face. Now, Shannon Williams says, quote, the issue of equal pay is not just a women's issue because it trickles down into our family and into our communities, and it trickles down into our overall economy. This is what I was saying a few minutes ago. If the, end quote, if the gender pay gap were eliminated, on average, an African-American woman working full-time year-round would have enough money for their 2.5 years of childcare. They would have enough money. They would have money for more than 2.5 years of childcare, more than 2.5 years of additional tuition and fees for a 4-year public university, or 22 more months of rent, according to the National Partnership for Women and Families. So when we deal with the eviction moratorium and we deal with this eviction landslide, this is proportionately negatively impact African American women and families. To begin to rectify the wage gap between Black women and white men, companies need to make changes to their hiring and promotion practices, said Shannon Williams. Policies such as asking people to report their previous wages or discouraging workers from sharing how much they are being paid with colleagues can keep in place lower pay for African American women. Until substantial change is made, advocates such as Shannon Williams will continue to bring attention to the wage gap, she said. Okay, read the rest of this piece here from Fortune.com. Fortune.com, why Black women's wage gap is a problem for everyone. Okay, read that one. And then CNBC also has an article from today. Black women make nearly $1 million less than white men during their careers. Black women make nearly $1 million less than white men during their careers. This is from CNBC.com, August 3rd, 2021. Tuesday, August 3rd is Black Women's Equal Pay Day. It marks the additional 214 days that Black women must work to catch up with what white non-Hispanic men earned last year. In essence, Black women must work 509 days to make what white men made in 365 days. Okay. Now, on average, Black women are currently paid 63 cents on every dollar paid to non-Hispanic white men. For full-time working African-American women, this amounts to a median wage gap of $2,900 a month, $24,110 a year, and $946,000 over a 40-year career. So over a 40-year career, based upon the latest statistics, African-American women make $964,000 less. So read this one also. That's almost $1 million. Okay. And then African American men make about, I think it's about 80 cents on the dollar that the average white man makes, that the average white male makes. Black women make nearly $1 million less than white men during their careers. So read this piece here from CNBC.com. All right, I want to go to Simone Biles. We're going to go to that clip from Simone Biles. So Simone Biles bounced back. I was up late. I was working. I was editing videos, doing work after last night's show. And it was going to start about 4:45, 4:45 Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. Eastern Standard Time in there in Tokyo. And I went to bed about 4:30, so I recorded it. I still got to go back and watch it. Okay, Simone Biles bounces back with bronze on balance beam. Okay, let's go to this clip.
What a night. A good night. I mean, Simone Biles.
She did it.
Delivered, honey. She did it. It was remarkable. She came into the competition. She got a bronze medal on the balance beam. By the way, SG, that final just wrapped up. I was in the audience with a whole bunch of people who were watching. It was like we were all nervous wrecks, but we got a little video. We wanted Simone to know that we were there rooting her on, and she and Suni were down on the floor. It was really cool. But by the way, SG, right now, they are on their way over here in a van. The whole crew, the whole entire gym.
I hope you got them a police escort so they can hurry. And I swear I was watching live. I swear I saw someone look up at you, Hoda. I know she gave you a wave.
Oh, she did. She was so sweet. And it was, she was nervous, but she's going to come here and tell us all about it. She did it. She did it. She did it.
All right. So Simone Biles did it. Okay, stop the clip, please. Okay, Simone Biles did it. And stop the clip, please. Thank you. So Simone Biles did it. She won a bronze medal on the balance beam. Okay. And she said, I didn't expect a medal today. I did not expect a medal today. I just wanted to go out there and do this for me. And that's exactly what I did, Simone Biles said after the competition. Now, she got a score of a 14. So she took bronze. Widely considered the world's best gymnast, Simone Biles moved smoothly and precisely through her routine, barely wobbling, and smiled broadly as she landed on the mat. When it concluded, she waved and blew a kiss at photographers and the crowd and hugged teammates and competitors alike. Okay, now Biles now ties the record for the most Olympic medals won by a U.S. gymnast. Team USA tweeted shortly after she bagged the bronze medal. She scored 14.0. And here's a picture of her here on the balance beam. Now, she said, it's been a very long week. It's been a very long 5 years, Simone Biles said. It's been a very long week. It's been a very long 5 years. She said, I didn't expect a medal today. I just wanted to go out there and do this for me. And that's exactly what I did. Now, okay, those watching on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, keep watching. We're going to keep broadcasting. If you'd like to stop for information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the research and stay on the air and keep broadcasting. Visit our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, and register for my new 10-week online course, From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power. That meets on Saturdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. All right. Remember, right now is correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Stand by, everybody. Stand by. All right. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show, SHOW, through Cash App. And it will show my name there and say Michael. So you can support us there. Stand by. We're going to keep going. We're out of time on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. Let's see here. Okay, let's go back to the story here of Simone Biles. So let's bring this back up. All right. If we go back and look at this article here from NBC News. So Simone Biles said it's been a very long 5 years. It's been a very long 5 years. She said, speaking in the gymnastic center after the event, she said, quote, "I didn't expect a medal today. I just wanted to go out there and do this for me. And that's exactly what I did." Now, she stunned spectators last week by withdrawing during the team gymnastics final. She said the emotional toll of the Tokyo Games, not a physical injury, prompted her withdrawal. She said the emotional toll of the Tokyo Games, not a physical injury, prompted her withdrawal. Now, speaking Tuesday, Biles said she had been evaluated by medical professionals daily. She also had 2 sessions with a sports psychologist while in Tokyo, which she said had helped ease her mind. Okay. She had 2 sessions with a sports psychologist in Tokyo, which she said helped ease her mind. And once again, you know, Simone Biles has brought attention to mental health for athletes, especially for Olympic athletes, and the need for them to pay attention to their mental health and know when they should not compete. She said, then just focusing on the beam, since I don't twist and all, really helped. Okay. Because doing the balance beam is different than doing the uneven bars or something like that, or floor exercises. You don't do a lot of twisting as much as with the balance beam. Now, Simone Biles said that she found out her aunt had recently passed away unexpectedly, and that it really hurt. It had been really hard. Okay. So this is something we found out today. She's also dealing with a death in the family as well. She found out her aunt had recently passed away unexpectedly, and that it had really been hard. Earlier, she had revealed she was still suffering from the twisties, and she said she literally cannot tell up from down. She literally cannot tell up from down, but there was no sign of any such anxiety as she performed on Tuesday. Now, when she was asked how the bronze medal compared to past medals, she said that it was definitely sweeter, She said, "I'll cherish this a lot more." She said, "I'll cherish this one a lot more." And the Huffington Post had an article dealing with that topic also, and what she said, that she would cherish this one a lot more. And we're going to pull that one up from the Huffington Post here in just a second. All right. She said, "I'll cherish this a lot more." She said, I would like to dedicate it to all the Team USA for helping me and reaching out and supporting me. It just meant the world. It just meant the world. Okay. So we have that story from NBC News. And then Simone Biles went on to say, previously, she said this statement on last Friday, "For anyone saying I quit, I didn't quit." Okay. And we talked about this on yesterday's show. "For anyone saying I quit, I didn't quit. My mind and body are simply not in sync. As you can see here," Simone Biles wrote Friday in an Instagram post. That'd be Friday, July 30th. She said, quote, "I don't think you realize how dangerous this is on hard competition surface, nor do I have to explain why I put health first. Physical health is mental health. Physical health is mental health." So check out this piece here from NBC News. Simone Biles bounces back, wins bronze on balance beam. All right, now there was an article from Black Enterprise that talked about her aunt passing. Simone Biles' aunt died while she braved pressures of Tokyo Olympics. And it says here, in what seemed like the most trying week of her career, superstar gymnastics greatest of all time, Simone Biles, caught a case of the twisties and pulled out of several Olympic competitions to tend to her mental health before she finally conquered the balance beam and secured a bronze medal during the Tokyo 2021 Olympics. And to add insult to injury to her injured soul, Simone Biles was peppered with hate by some who thought she was punking out on the international stage by opting out of competing. But in the midst of it all, supporters swooped in to fill her heart with words of love, support, and courage. Okay. But as if that wasn't enough, Simone Biles received the devastating news that her aunt on her father's side unexpectedly passed away, according to People magazine. Simone Biles' coach said that was another one. I was like, oh my God, this week needs to be over. Okay. Now, and her coach went on to say, and she said, "I just need some time." I said, she said, her coach went on to say, and she said, "I just need some time." I said, you call me, text me if you need anything. I'll be here, whatever that is. She called her parents. She said, "There's nothing I can do from over here, so I'm just going to finish my week, and when I get home, we'll deal with it," end quote. Okay, so she's also dealing with the passing of her aunt as well. All right, so it's been a very traumatic 2 weeks for her, but she has paid attention to her mental health, gotten help that she needed, and she's been able to bounce back and persevere. So our condolences to her family as well. And, she did a fantastic job on the balance beam. Now, there was also an article from Huffington Post. It's one from Huffington Post that I saw. And she talked about the importance of this bronze medal and how it was different than the other medals she's won. Now, this is her 7th medal. She ties the record for the most medals for a gymnast. Simone Biles, "I'll treasure this one a lot more after everything I have been through. I'll treasure this one a lot more after everything that I've been through." And she says, "I was proud of myself." She says, "I was proud of myself just to go out there after what I've been through." She said this after she won the bronze. She told that to Reuters, Reuters.com. She told the Associated Press, "I had nerves, but I felt pretty good. She said, regarding the bronze medal, she said, I'll treasure this one a lot more after everything I've been through. Now, the color of the medal seemed irrelevant after Simone Biles, with 7 medals, tied Shannon Miller for the most won by an American gymnast. One of them was a bronze on the beam at the 2016 Rio Olympics. A week has passed since Simone Biles abruptly dropped out of competition after a wonky vault. She spoke frankly of her struggles and the pressure and withdrew from the all-around and 3 of the individual events as well. But she appeared smiling and ready for what could be at least it could be a last moment on the Olympic stage. She said, this one is definitely sweeter, referring to the bronze medal. Here's a picture of her smiling with her bronze medal. All right. So once again, she's Black Girl Magic, and congratulations to Simone Biles. All right. Marlene said that haters are going to always hate. Yes, they will. And they can't do 1/100th of what Simone Biles can do. The best they can do is try to tumble out of bed in the morning. That's the best they can do. Half of them can barely sit up in the morning. That's the only sit up they do, trying to sit up in the bed in the morning. All right, so read this one here from Huffington Post. Simone Biles, I'll treasure this one a lot more after everything I have been through. All right, we want to go to this next segment here. This is dealing with Runoko Rashidi. Before we go to that, everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in as well. Want to let you know that I have a new 10-week online course that I teach on Saturdays. This is from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay. And this picks up basically where the first online course that I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, where that one leaves off. This is a 10-week online course. We do approximately 2 hours each session. Sometimes we'll go over. This is Saturdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I do the classes live. All the sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch it over and over again. Okay. Even after the 10-week course is over with, you still have access, and go back and watch the course as much as you want to. You still have access to it. Each class will go through and analyze an approximately 10-year period of history after the Civil War ended. Okay. And we go through Reconstruction, 1865 to 1877, and deal with the Jim Crow era and the reversal of rights and of African Americans, and theft of land and attack on progress we were making, and the lynchings that took place, and Supreme Court rulings like Williams versus Mississippi of 1898, which legalizes poll taxes and literacy tests. Then we go through the 20th century and the Great Migration, 1915 to 1970, and we look at World War I and the Red Summer, 1919, and the Universal Negro Improvement Association, Marcus Garvey, and creation of the Nation of Islam as well. And then we go through World War II, 1941, 1945, and the New Deal from Franklin Roosevelt, and the civil rights movement, and what happened after World War II as well. And we start having a deindustrialization of the inner city and the expressways being built running through African-American communities, 41,000 miles of U.S. interstate highways, and they're going to run through about 1,600 African-American communities, wiping out businesses, wiping out homes. We go through the civil rights movement. We look at Emmett Till, and the Montgomery bus boycott. We go through the civil rights movement, and then through the Black Power movement as well, and the assassination of Dr. King. We'll also deal with the Kerner Commission report, commissioned in 1967, July 1967, came out March 1968, the month before Dr. King was assassinated. So this is a fantastic 10-week online course. You can register right now for it. As soon as you register, you can watch last week's session. And we also have some bonus content there that you can watch as well. Okay. You'll get the first 3 classes of this other 10-week online course I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. In this class, we deal with thousands of years of history and what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place and take you through the transatlantic slave trade. This class meets on Sundays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do the classes live. All the sessions are recorded. So these courses are regularly $130, on sale $80. And click on register here. It takes you to the next page. Just click on enroll. And you can click on enroll, and you can register there. As soon as you register, you can start watching the archive content, and you'll be ready for classes on Saturday and Sunday. Okay. And we just posted the link here also, so you can register for the courses. All right. I want to talk about Runoko Rashidi passing away. This took everybody by surprise. Historian and lecturer and anthropologist. Runoko Rashidi. Runoko was a friend of mine, and we've had him here on the show before, the African History Network show, also, even on my Blog Talk Radio show. Even before I started doing radio on 9:10 a.m. in 2016, I had him on my Blog Talk Radio show. And he was a brilliant brother. This is a big loss. Let's pull up a picture here. And I want to look at there was an article that I saw today of, there's an article from the Focus News dealing with the passing of Runoko Rashidi. Then we're going to look at the bio that's on his website also. Okay. So let me go to his website. Now, his website is drrunoko.com. drrunoko.com. And pull up his website here. I think you can still order his books through his website. Let me see right here, drrunoko.com. And I use 2 of Runoko's books in my online class. You know, I talk about Runoko like every class. Black Star, the African Presence in Early Europe is one of the books I use when we talk about the history of the Moors. This is one of the books. This is a book Runoko wrote. Fantastic book. I interviewed him about this like in 2014. Black Star, the African Presence in Early Europe. Then also Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. Runoko has an essay in this book. Fantastic essay dealing with the history of the Moors. And then also dealing with Asia. Where is that book? And I've got a ton of books here. I have his book on the African presence in early Asia as well. And I referenced that book also in my classes. Oh, right here. Now this one, I think I got this one from him a few years ago when he was speaking at the Liberated Minds Black Homeschooling Education Expo in Atlanta. African Star over Asia, the Black presence in the East. African Star over Asia, the Black presence in the East, by Runoko Rashidi as well. Okay, so this is a brilliant brother. He was in the film Hapi. Okay. Yeah, I just talked to Tyke Grant yesterday. He's one of the people I reached out to confirm that Runoko had passed away. Tyke is the director of the film Hapi. We've had Tyke here on the show before. All right, so if we look at this here, here's his website. And there's a statement from the family here, August 2nd, 2021, from the family of Runoko Rashidi. Let's blow this up here. And I knew he had passed away before I posted, a few hours before I posted about it. I talked to a couple of people. They said we want to contact the family and let the family know before we start putting this on social media. So I reached out to people. I talked to Professor Kabahai Wata coming in yesterday. I talked to Professor James Small yesterday, Dr. Ray Winbush. Tony Browder reached out back to me today because I contacted Tony yesterday and he got back with me today. And we talked about this some as well. Family, it is with our most sincere and deepest regret that the family of Dr. Runoko Rashidi announced the sad news that he has transitioned into the ancestral realm on today, August 2nd, 2021. He was on tour in Kemet, Egypt, doing what he loved most. He will be greatly missed. Please allow his family the time and privacy needed during this difficult moment. We will be posting more information and updating this website as it becomes available. Okay. Brother Yasir Rahotep, Brother Vernon, Sister Teresa Dobson, Sister Althea Cooper. Okay, here's a picture here of Runoko also. Okay, so they have quotes from Runoko here. So they have a bio. Okay, Global African Presence Archives. They have a bio here on Runoko. Let's look at his bio. I printed his bio out also because I wanted to go over that today. Then I'm going to share an excerpt of an interview I did with Runoko from, this one is 2014. I'm trying to find the full interview from 2017 that I did here on 9:10 a.m. I'm trying to find that full one because he was speaking, it was promoting him speaking here in Detroit. I'm trying to find that full. I got to go through my archives. I have over 1,000 episodes of the African History Network show. But Runoko Rashidi is an anthropologist. Let's see how this looks. Okay, let's try to blow this up some more for you all. Let's see. Okay, let's try to get this up. All right, Runoko Rashidi is an anthropologist and historian with a major focus on what he calls the global African presence, That is Africans outside of Africa before and after enslavement. Africans outside of Africa before and after enslavement. He is the author or editor of 22 books, the most recent of which are My Global Journeys in Search of the African Presence, Asada, Garvey, and Me, A Global African Journey for Children in 2017, and The Black Image in Antiquity in 2019. Okay. His other books include Black Star, The African Presence in Early Europe, which is a fantastic book. That was published by Books of Africa in London in November 2011. And then also African Star over Asia, The Black Presence in the East, published by Books of Africa in London in November 2012 and revised and reprinted in April 2013. Uncovering the African Past, the Ivan Van Sertima Papers, published by Books of Africa in 2015. His other works include The African Presence in Early Asia, co-edited by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. And we know Dr. Ivan Van Sertima wrote They Came Before Columbus. 4 of Runoko's works have been published in French, in the French language. Now, as a traveler and researcher, Dr. Runoko Rashidi has visited 124 countries. Now, I think it's 120. I think it's at least 125 now. They may have to update that, but at least 124 countries. And see, what Runoko did was he took photographs everywhere he went. So he had a personal library. I think last interview I did with them, he said it was like 35,000 photographs he had taken all around the world, documenting the African presence all around the world. It may be 40,000 photographs now, but it was like 35,000. And on his on his YouTube, on his Facebook page, he posts all these photographs. Okay. If you go to his here on his website, it should connect you to his Facebook page. Okay, but it's Runoko Rashidi on I think it's Runoko Rashidi on Facebook. I'll pull that up because I follow him. We're Facebook friends, and he has the personal page, but he has the fan page also. His fan page is, let me see which one is his fan page? Yeah, this one right here. It was 73,000. It's Runoko Rashidi, but it's a fan page. Okay, and it has like 73,000. I think this is the right one. It's like 73,000 friends or followers, something like that. Let me see here. Okay. So yeah, this one right here. This is his fan page. He's at like 73,000 on the fan page, and 73,000 people like, but it's about almost 100,000 that follow it. Yeah. Okay. So check that out. Now, let's go back to his bio. Runoko has, so he's visited at least 124 countries. I really think it's at least 135 now. As a lecturer and presenter, he has spoken in 67 countries. He's spoken in 67 countries. Runoko has worked with and under some of the most distinguished scholars of the past half century, including Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. John Henrik Clarke, Dr. Asa Hilliard, Professor Edward Scobie, Dr. John G. Jackson, Jan Carew, and Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, Dr. Ben. In October 1987, Runoko Rashidi inaugurated the first All India Dalit Writers Conference in Hyderabad, India. In 1999, he was the major keynote speaker at the International Reunion of the African Family in Latin America, in Venezuela, Barlovento, Venezuela. In 2005, Runoko Rashidi was awarded an honorary doctorate degree, his first, by the Amun-Ra Theological Society Seminary in Los Angeles. The Amun-Ra Theological Seminary in Los Angeles. In October 2010, he was first keynote speaker at the first Global Nationalities Conference in Nigeria, okay, Osogbo, Nigeria. In December 2010, he was president and first speaker at the Diaspora Forum at the Fesman Conference in Dakar, Senegal. In 2018, he was named traveling ambassador to the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the UNIA, and African Communities League, RC 2020. In 2020, he was named to the curatorial and academic boards of the Pan-African Heritage Museum. He is currently doing major research on the African presence in the museums of the world, the African presence in the museums of the world. Now, as a tour leader, he has taken groups to India, Australia, Fiji, Turkey, Jordan, Brazil, Egypt, Ghana, Togo, Benin, France, Belgium, etc. All throughout Africa, Kenya, Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Luxembourg, Germany, Cameroon, Spain. Runoko's major mission in life is to is the upliftment of African people, those at home and those abroad. Those at home and those abroad. Okay, so visit his website, drrunoko.com. I think they have information there, how you can order his books and everything. Support Runoko and his family. This is a big loss. And let's see, let's go back to the home page here. Okay, so they have updates on his website, drrunoko.com. Okay, yeah, they'll have updates here. All right, I want to go to, now there was also this article here from The Focus, and somebody sent this to me today. This is written by Olivia Olfen. You can check this out also. It talks about Runoko's legacy. TheFocusNews.com, or TheFocus.News. TheFocus.News. Runoko Rashidi's death announced. Academic community mourns scholar and historian. This is by Olivia Olfen from August 3rd, 2021. I saw a post, Rock Newman and our Facebook friend saw a post from Rock Newman, because Rock Newman has interviewed Runoko before, and he was posting information, clips of like the interviews, etc. So this is an article here about Runoko. Runoko was 67 years old. He was born in 1954. So check this out also from the Focus, Focus.News. There was a post here that I shared from Tony Browder. Tony and Runoko were good friends, and they've done like lectures together, things like that. They're also both in Hidden Colors 2 as well. They're both in Hidden Colors 2 also. Let's see here. Where's that post? Okay, this one right here. Let's see if we can bring this up here. All right, so we'll do it like this. I posted this on my fan page. All right, I was trying to get this on Tony's page, but okay, we can do it like this. This was shared from Tony Browder's page, and he made it public, so I can share it. Tony Browder said, is a picture of Tony and Runoko together. And Tony and I, we were on I've had Tony Browder here on the show before a number of times, and I want to bring him back on for another interview. But Tony and I were on a panel discussion together in Atlanta at the second Black Power Awards. I think that was 2017, I think it was. We were on a panel discussion dealing with the film Black Friday from director Rick Mathis, and director Rick Mathis was he was the moderator of the panel, and Tony and I were both in one of the Black Friday films. But he said, Tony said, I lost my brother Runoko Rashidi yesterday. We lost a giant yesterday. As the world mourns the loss of brother Runoko, let us remember him as a brilliant scholar who dedicated his life documenting the contributions of African greatness worldwide. And, you know, Runoko wasn't one of the scholars that want to do all these debates and all this stuff on YouTube, and he wasn't one to talk negatively about African people and things like this. Runoko was dedicated to the upliftment of African people. Runoko was not for things that divided African people. He was a Pan-Africanist. He was not for things that divided our people. He wasn't into debating over ideologies and all this stuff. Okay. He used his work to uplift African people all around the world and show us the connection of African people around the world as well. He said, I share this interview Runoko and I did on June 20th and ask that you did June 20th, 2021, and ask that you think of him fondly and wish him safe passage as he makes his way into the ancestral realm. Peace and blessings to the family of Runoko Rashidi. So that's a post from Tony Browder, and I shared that on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. Okay, and here's the you can watch the interview there, and follow Anthony T. Browder on Facebook also. Anthony T. Browder on Facebook as well. All right, now here is a let me pull this up here. And I had to go into my archives, and because I've had laptops that died on me, things like this. I have a number of external hard drives. I had to go into my archives to find some of these pictures that I had, in promoting the interviews I did with Runoko and things like this. Here's one right here, and that has his book, Black Star, the African Presence in Early Europe, and he's in the Hidden Colors 2 documentary. I want to go to an excerpt of an interview I did with Runoko in, this one is from, I think this is from 2014. I was looking at one we did from 2017. I got to find the full file. So maybe tomorrow's show, I can share that one from 2017. But in this one here, we discuss the Black Madonnas in Europe. The Black Madonnas in Europe. This is from April 17th, 2014 on the African History Network show. Okay. This was when I was on Blog Talk Radio. So this is even before I got on the Empowerment Radio Network and before I had a 8-channel mixer. I have a 12-channel mixer now. This is before I had an 8-channel mixer. This is before I had a Shure microphone. I think I was using a headset at this time, plugging into the laptop. Okay, so the sound quality is much better. I've come a long way since Blog Talk Radio days. All right, but let's go to this clip here.
Came to be known in history as the Chevalier de Saint George, or the Saint Georges, and this is.
Let me back it up a little bit. Okay, let's back it up a little bit.
You did butcher it, brother. Joseph Boulogne came to be known in history as the Chevalier de Saint George, or the Saint Georges, and this is an African who was born in Guadeloupe in the Caribbean on the December 25th, 1745. And he became one of the great men in what's called the golden age of French history. And you have a number of people like that who just stand out. There weren't many of them, but they were brilliant. People like Alexander Pushkin in Russia, or people like Adolf Baden in Sweden and Angelo Solomon in Austria, the Dumas family in France. There was a man in Germany named Wilhelm Anton Amo, who graduated with a doctorate in philosophy from the University of Halle, I think, in Germany in 1796. So you have, even during the age of enslavement, you have a handful of Africans and men of African descent. You never find records of African women, but men of African descent who managed to distinguish themselves in a very, I guess what could be called a very hostile environment, at the very least, a very lonely environment. And I find it fascinating. Sometimes people ask me, Runoko, why are these things important, or why are these people important? Because any African who's able to excel in whatever endeavor in an area where there are very few Africans and there's a hostility, a general hostility towards Africans, it makes for a remarkable story. We find people like Septimius Severus, the great African emperor of Rome, or you find people like Saint Maurice, the African patron saint of the Holy Roman Germanic Empire. It's just really remarkable thing. So thank you for mentioning Joseph Boulogne, and I certainly appreciate it, and I think a lot of sisters and brothers appreciate that.
Absolutely.
if you want to know, or if the audience wants to know, I'm in France right now, and it's 3:35 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So if I sound subdued, that's the reason why.
Okay, I thought it was PM there, but yeah, it is. They are like about 6 hours ahead of us or something like that, 6-7 hours ahead. Okay, definitely. Well, we're not gonna hold you long, brother. I know what you said when you emailed me, so we definitely appreciate you coming home, brother. And when we do have international listeners, we have listeners in the UK, Japan, things like that, so we definitely appreciate it. But your article here, April 13th, Joseph. Is it Boulogne? Boulogne. Okay. First of all, it's a fascinating article, and I encourage everybody to read it. But it talks about the age of enlightenment in France. Okay, and his life is within that period of time, the 18th century. What is the age of enlightenment in France? If you don't mind sharing that with us.
Well, I would say the age of enlightenment is due to the exploitation of African people. France had begun to establish itself or reaffirm itself as a world colonial power. France is one of the biggest slave trading countries, and it grew wealthy as a result of that. So there's a tremendous amount of wealth, and it leads to what's called a golden age in France. Now, you're looking at it from the perspective of the French, not the perspective of the Africans or the exploited people. But there's a lot of things going on, too, a lot of intellectual ferment. For example, I believe it's 1794 where you have the French Revolution. And the Haitian Revolution is a part of that. So slavery was abolished, in all of the French colonies. And it wasn't, I think, if I have my history correctly, it was reinstituted as a result of the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. But when people talk about folks like Robespierre and Marie Antoinette and Alexander Dumas, all of that comes out of this period in French history. But the basis of it, I don't think there's any doubt, is the exploitation of enslaved Africans. And this will ultimately lead, or actually it's already in the process of doing it, to the exploitation of Africa itself, so that slavery is abolished, or enslavement is abolished, if you prefer that term. And it becomes more an issue, a direct issue of French colonialism in Africa. Of all the colonial powers, the French grabbed the most of Africa, closely followed by the British.
Wow. When I think now, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't that period of time, does that also have something to do with French philosophers and them trying to, an age of reason and thought or critical thinking, something like that? Does that have something also to do with that period of time?
Well, the greatest of the French philosophers during that period of time is, and remember, this is all new to me too. I'm learning the whole process. The greatest of the French philosophers is Voltaire, and then you're followed by a whole nother, era from the time that the Chevalier de Saint Georges died. And by the way, the word Chevalier means knight in French. So he became a knight. His father was a French nobleman, and his mother apparently was the most beautiful woman, the most beautiful African woman in the island of Guadeloupe. And so at a young age, Joseph Boulogne goes to France, and because of his father's status, he receives a superior education. He was able to excel in many, many things. So on the one hand, his race is not a complete impediment, but he was only able to rise so far. Just to get to your question, but add a bit more information, he's also known as the Black Mozart. And Mozart actually had to come to him and ask him for a job. Joseph Boulogne was the head of the French opera. And Mozart actually came and asked him for a job. Joseph Boulogne was an associate of Marie Antoinette. He set the trends for fashion. And he's just a really remarkable person. So he dies around 1800, 1795, 1794, 1800, and 1795, that period of time. And right after that, you have the Dumas family. You have this family of African descendant people from Haiti. And, of course, Alexander Dumas is the person who wrote The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo and The Man in the Iron Mask. And he is a contemporary of people like Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo is Charles Dickens of France. Victor Hugo wrote a book which was called Notre Dame, which came to be known to history as The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And he also wrote the book Les Miserables, where he talks about Jean Valjean, the man who was arrested as a young person for stealing a loaf of bread to feed his family and was given like a 20-year prison sentence, something like that, and who eventually got out of prison and who spent most of the rest of his life trying to duck and dodge from his criminal past. And so there's a discussion about class differences as well between the haves and the have-nots. And he's a contemporary of Emile Zola. And Emile Zola was the person who wrote about a famous trial called the Dreyfus Trial. And so all of these, people were talking about the status, not necessarily of black people per se, but the status of class and the haves and the have-nots. So all of this is a part of this period that Joseph Boulogne is said to have lived. And the lesson, I suppose, that comes out of this for me is that all history is interconnected. Just to make a fantastic leap, for example, and something that I'm learning right now and trying to incorporate in my work is the fact that the civil rights movement in the United States, what we call the U.S. Civil Rights Movement beginning in the mid-1950s, and that led to the Black Power movement in the 1960s, cannot be separated from the African liberation movement in Africa.
Exactly.
That Martin Luther King was a keen observer of the African liberation struggle. That Dr. King went to Africa several times, and so did Coretta Scott King, for that matter.
Correct.
Dr. King was in Africa at the time of the independence of Ghana. Martin Luther King went to Jamaica and spoke glowingly at the shrine of Marcus Garvey. And so there was a Black Power movement in Australia. There was a Garvey movement in Australia. And so I guess what I'm trying to do is, in a sense, with all of this, is connect the dots and to show that black history is everybody's history, that you can't separate one from the other, and that all of these phenomena are interconnected.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know if you know Professor Manu and Pim out of California, man, but because I've done some interviews with him dealing with the distortion of the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., man. Dr. King is one of the most misunderstood people in history. His legacy has been totally distorted. And a lot of people don't know about him studying African history, him being a keen observer of of Africa's liberation movements, things like this. That's totally not talked about when we talk about Dr. King. Also, very quickly here, in this article, you also talk about Code Noir, Law of Blacks. Talk about that a little bit, because when we hear about the French, we hear about Paris, France, and things like this, but we don't hear about them oppressing African people that much. I guess those who really study African history, we know about French and the colonies, things like this, but in general, you really don't hear about this, about the French.
Well, no, I suppose not. You hear stories about people like Josephine Baker, or people like Richard Wright and Langston Hughes. All of them came to France. They lived in France. One of Richard Wright's daughters, and of course, for those who don't know Richard Wright, we're talking about the author of books like Black Boy, Native Son, classical African-American literature, you might say. So, in many ways, I think a lot of African-Americans, at least, have viewed France, and Paris in particular, as a haven against white supremacy. And I suppose for African Americans, that may be true to some extent. I've rarely encountered, overt racism in France. I've been coming here for over 10 years now, and I like it here. It's a good experience. Lots of Africans here, lots of museums, great public transportation, expensive, but beyond that, it's not a bad place. But for Africans from the continent of Africa itself, or Africans who don't have money, Africans who don't have what are generally known as papers, you know, it's a hell on earth. And let me add, too, that each colonial power employed different techniques for dealing with their colonial subjects. And one of the things that the French did was to incorporate a sense of French identity, however false and frivolous that might be. You know, I meet people even now from countries like not Democratic Republic of Congo, but Congo Brazzaville or French Congo, you know, or Gabon or Central African Republic, countries that have been, at least on paper, independent for 50 years or more, who go around saying, I'm French. You don't encounter sisters and brothers from Jamaica or Nigeria or Ghana, you know, as poor as some of these countries are, although the material wealth is, you know, should make them very wealthy. You don't hear these sisters and brothers going around saying, I'm English. But the French did a marvelous job. You know, when I say marvelous, I'm saying that with some degree of sarcasm. I'm applauding my enemy to an extent. They did a wonderful job in incorporating a sense of French identity. And so people, in many cases, feel like their loyalty is to France. And then the Dutch did their own particular job, and the Germans, and the Belgians, and the Portuguese, and the Spanish. For example, the Portuguese developed a group of people called the Assimilados, you know, who were largely the offspring of the Portuguese and Africans, and put them in charge. And so the French are very similar to that. The French were some of the most effective colonizers, very, very racist. And a lot of us just don't know about that. And that's something that troubles me a great deal. You know, I spend a lot of time on Facebook as well as you know. And one of the things that strikes me, in fact, I should do, you know, I've got several other articles coming up soon in Atlanta Black Star. But I see their format. And one of the things that they do is they might say 10, you know, great Africans who they need to make a movie about, or the 5 Africans who we need to emulate, or 5 classical civilizations that weren't in Africa but were black, things like that. But one of the things, if I ever get the time, I'd like to write is like, what are the greatest myths of Africa? I don't know how I jumped to this point, but one of these myths might be that Africa is not named after a Roman general. Or that the reason Africans are scattered around the world is not because of Pangea. You know, things of that nature. And the other thing is, you mentioned just the point I was going to make. And I want to say this, and then I'll shut up for a moment. I guess I'm sleep deprived. Is, oh my God, I forgot. It's almost 4 o'clock in the morning. You were talking about the myths. Yeah, I was talking about the myths, but there's one myth in particular that I wanted to introduce. I guess it'll come back to me, brother. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, but Pangea is a good one. I can email you something. Yeah, Africa was named after
Here we go. I got it. Maybe the thing that frustrates me on Facebook the most is when I make a post and people say, I didn't know that. No, they don't say I didn't know that. They typically say, they didn't tell me that. We didn't learn this in school, as if it's the responsibility of other people to teach us our history, that we have become so intellectually lazy, let's be real, and so psychologically dependent that even though many of us say that the European is the enemy of Africa or Africans, that we still expect that enemy to teach us our history. And when you look at that, you realize how slavery, and colonialism has reduced us psychologically as a group of people. So, anyway, I could ramble on and on, you know, about that, but those are some points I wanted to make in attempting to address your question in some way, form, or fashion.
You know, you're right about that. And see, what happens is, especially when you go to the college level, you go through college and then you get your degree, you get your bachelor's degree, you get your master's degree, and you don't learn this information. And you thought that you had a good education. You graduated from Princeton or Notre Dame or Wayne State University. You thought you had a good education, and you didn't learn any of this. And it becomes shocking. Let's not just look at high school level. Let's look at college level. Okay, you pay all this money, and you didn't learn any of this stuff. Okay, that can become very shocking to people. Luckily it was in college where I started really studying African history. Okay, so I got at least some of this information, and I studied on my own. So when I took my first Africana Studies classes, I was talking about things that the professors didn't know about. Kind of shocked the hell out of me. but still, I still learned things from them. But I was dropping stuff on them that they didn't know. So,
I think you can't teach what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, we don't know what we don't know until we begin to know it. I sound a little bit like a philosopher now.
No,
but
you're
it's very,
correct.
very true. And all of this is a part of the African liberation process. I think Garvey said it best in terms of freeing your mind. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Nobody can free us but ourselves. That Bob Marley later picked up on and incorporated into the lyrics of a song. And so I just think, in a sense, I suppose it's wonderful that in spite of everything that we've gone through, that we're here to have this conversation and talk about these things. Not only, is it, the other thing, it can generate a tremendous amount of anger, and even hatred. Once you begin to realize what has happened to us and you didn't know about it. I remember when I was a university freshman or sophomore and I began to read about lynchings, and I was just furious. And if you had asked me what motivated me at that time, I would have said hatred for white people. But fortunately, I went through that phase and I was able to channel that energy. And that's another message that I think that we need to give our people. If you're just going to be angry, you're not effective. But if you're able to channel that anger, that excitement, that emotion in a positive direction that will uplift your community, then ultimately it turns out to be a good thing. So people like you and the work that you're doing in an unorthodox fashion, putting this information out there, it's invaluable.
Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you, and we appreciate you definitely. We're going to shift gears here into this other article that you wrote, and then we're going to wrap it up early for you also. We're going to wrap it up early, so don't worry about that. Oh, okay. Professor Kaba Kamene, also known as Booker T. Coleman, I do a show with him every Wednesday night, okay? And he gave me this quote, and also Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence, when I had him on about 3 weeks ago, he gave me this quote also. This is from Napoleon Bonaparte. And Napoleon said, quote, "My decision to destroy the authority of the blacks in Saint Dominique or Haiti is not so much based on considerations of commerce and money as on the need to block forever the march of the blacks in the world." Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I posted it a few times on Facebook myself. I'd like to find the source of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree. I got to ask Brother Copper where he got it from to see, and also Dr. David Imhotep. It's interesting. They both had that, so I have to see where they got that from. But I found that very interesting. Your article, March 19th, on AtlantaBlackStar.com, and everybody, please check out the website. They have tremendous information. I've talked to Brother Andre Moore, I think it is, with Atlanta Black Star. I'm going to be doing some things with them also. But this article here, Invasion, Theft, Rape, Murder, the Aboriginal Holocaust in Tasmania. We don't hear a lot about Tasmania, and we don't hear, we hear even less about the Africans in Tasmania. But tell us, briefly about this.
Well, there is a place called Tasmania. It's not just something that you hear in the cartoons. Tasmania is an island off the southeast coast of Australia. Australia is the largest inhabited continent in the world, permanently inhabited continent. Antarctica would officially qualify, but Antarctica doesn't have a history of human population. Mostly the people there who are scientists. The people in Antarctica today are scientists, but Tasmania is an island about the size of Ireland or West Virginia, and it's been inhabited for at least the last 35,000 years, I suspect more, by black people, who some would say are the descendants of Africa. Everybody's a descendant of Africa. And that they, these short-statured black people, nappy hair, happy to be nappy hair, settled there, and lived in what seems to be peace and harmony. I think there are two groups of black folk there. I think one is called the Palawa, P-A-L-L-L-W-A. No, I think it's P-A-L-L-A-W-A. And I think the other group is Pakana. I believe that's the name, P-A-K-A-N-A. And they lived in peace and harmony, had a very, very basic and rudimentary human technology. For example, they've never found any evidence of farming there, as we know it today, or no evidence of fishing, or even the domestication of fire. So these sisters and brothers were isolated there, perhaps 10,000, I don't know how many. Then around 1800, the British came. Actually, they came in the 17th century. You have a man named, a Dutchman, named Abel Jansen Tasman. He settled there, or landed there. And that's who the island is named after, Abel Jansen Tasman. And after that, it was called Tasmania. And then the French came in, the French, let's say that with great sarcasm, in the 18th century. Right. And then the real catastrophe came when the British came. And this is around 1800, 1801. And the British took the land. Tasmania was established as a British prison settlement or prison colony. And so the worst, the most horrendous of the British criminals were taken to Tasmania, not the mainland, Australia itself. And they got loose. And they slaughtered those sisters and brothers. And then, a conscious decision was made just to take the land for the British. The British even denied the humanity of these people. And so most of them, from around 1801 to 1876, were rounded up, killed, and a few remnants were put in what could be called a concentration camp at a place called Oyster Cove, which I visited. And the reason I wanted to write that article in particular, I talked to Andre a few months ago, and he asked me to start writing for the Atlanta Black Star, and I was honored to do it. I think it's a great publication, or a great website.
Yes, it is.
A great source, is because I wanted to, just as I was mentioning a few minutes ago, in my sleep delirium, to help destroy some of the mythology around it, so that people have been going around saying all the Tasmanians were wiped out. And I used to say that until I knew better. And then I went to Australia, and I went to Tasmania, and I met them. And they weren't wiped out. All the full-bloods were killed or eventually died. But in this process, the British captured Aboriginal Tasmanian women. And I know some people object to the word Aboriginal, so I won't use it. I'll say indigenous or black Tasmanians. They captured some of the women and used them as sexual slaves. And children were born from those unions. So that the Aboriginal, there I go again, the indigenous Tasmanians of today are a highly mixed group of people with a lot of problems. Their children were taken away from them, so that you have issues like big issues, domestic violence, substance abuse. You have the stolen generations. These are the generations of indigenous children who were taken away from their parents and raised as slaves or in a slave-like condition. And these things haunt the sisters and brothers in Tasmania today. So it was an article that I was really pleased to write. It's really a rehash of articles I've been writing over the last 20 years. And I'm happy to say that that was the first article of mine that was published by the Atlanta Black Star.
Right.
All right. So we're going to pause it right there. We're going to wrap this show up today. And what I'm going to do is we'll share some more of this interview that I did with Runoko Rashidi. This interview was from April 17th, 2014. Did this interview April 17th, 2014. Runoko Rashidi, the Black Madonnas of Europe. Okay, I have this on YouTube. It's also, we have all these shows archived on Blog Talk Radio. That's where I upload. I've had Blog Talk Radio. I've had this channel. I've had the Blog Talk Radio channel since 2010, I think it is. So we have over 1,000 archive episodes there of the African History Network show. I've interviewed everybody from Darren DeWitt Henson, who was Lim on Soul Food. Now he's on the show The Family Business on BET. I've interviewed Runoko Rashidi, Dr. Layla Africa, Bernadette Stannis, Thelma from Good Times. Of course, Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Small, and Professor Kabahaya Watha Kamene, Dr. Ricchetti. I mean, I've interviewed some of everybody. So we'll share some more of this on the show tomorrow. While that interview was playing, I was showing you some articles that Runoko has written, and you can read these. This is at AtlantaBlackStar.com. So the last one he was talking about: invasion, theft, rape, murder, the Aboriginal Holocaust in Tasmania. That was from March 19th, 2014. March 19th, 2014. And then you have this one is a fantastic article, June 1st, 2014. Moors, Saints, Knights, and Kings, the African Presence in Medieval and Renaissance Europe. And in this article, he also talks about his, now this is Saint Maurice right here. This is a picture of Saint Maurice, who became the patron saint of Germany. He was a Moor. In this article, he also talks about his, and now this is Tariq. Okay. Tariq Ibn Ziyad, in Jebel Tariq, Tariq's mountain is that's who the Rock of Gibraltar is named after. Jebel Tariq. Okay. Tariq's mountain. Tariq Ibn Ziyad, the bold, in 711 AD, the bold Tariq crossed the straits and disembarked near a rock, promontory, which from that day since has borne his name, Jebel Tariq, Tariq's mountain, or Gibraltar. The Rock of Gibraltar is named after the African general Tariq Ibn Ziyad, who was a Moor. In August 711 AD, Tariq won paramount victory over the opposing European army. On the eve of the battle, Tariq is alleged to have roused his troops with the following words: "My brethren, the enemy is before you." Let's show this here. "My brethren, the enemy is before you. The sea is behind. Whither would ye fly? Follow your general. I am resolved either to lose my life or to trample on the prostrate king of the Romans." Okay, so check out this article also. This is a fantastic article. I've posted this a number of times throughout the years on our fan page, The African History Network. Moors, Saints, Knights, and Kings, the African Presence in Medieval and Renaissance Europe. And we'll talk about this information in the coming days. This one here, Joseph Ballon, about Joseph Ballon. Joseph Ballon, the Chevalier de St. Georges of France. That's from April 13th, 2014 for AtlantaBlackStar.com. Now, there was another one that I pulled up. This one here. This deals with the world of Sakanoya no Tamaramro, Black Shogun of early Japan. Okay, the Black Shogun of early Japan. And this shows the Black presence in early Japan. That's from AtlantaBlackStar.com also. There was one article here I've talked about a number of times before, especially during African American History Month and during like April when we deal with the assassination of Dr. King. This one here is How Steel Sharpens Steel, the connection between the civil rights movement and African independence movements. And this is something that we'll deal with in my new 10-week online course, From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And this deals with how the civil rights movement was taking place at the same time as the African liberation movement on the continent of Africa. And we were watching their movement. They were watching ours. And African nations were declaring their independence from their colonizers, European colonizers, starting with Ghana in 1957. Okay, starting with Ghana in 1957. Now,